I left my friend's bachelorette party after strange men joined us. Did I do the right thing? The author of the post is listed in the description. I, 24F, have a friend, 32F, who got engaged and decided to do a girls' trip as her bachelorette party. She picked Italy, and there were 6 of us on this trip. My friend loves to drink and party, whereas I don't drink but will indulge on occasion, like special events and celebrations. During this trip, I tried to participate in the drinking as best as I could. I'm a very bubbly and extroverted person when I'm in a group setting, so who I am sober versus drunk, it's the same energy. I have tried to express this to my friend for years, but she is still someone who gets sad when other people don't drink as much as her. It is also physically impossible for me to drink as much as her. I just can't. But I tried really hard for my friend on this trip to indulge her. I wanted her to feel happy. I share this to express that I went in with the best intentions. But here is where I drew the line. We met some young people. They invited us to a party. We went and danced and met more people. The night kept going on longer, and we were very far from our lodgings. These young men with 2 women in their group told us to stay with them for the night. I wasn't feeling this situation. It felt unsafe, but the group voted and I was in the minority. They were all quite inebriated, and it was hard to be the only sober person trying to get them to reconsider and get a cab and go to our lodgings. I didn't trust these men. Something seemed wrong, but I was at a loss as I could not split from my group and didn't feel safe separating from them in the middle of the night. We go to this house and settle in. In the middle of the night, I hear attempts being made to enter our room. The men entered, even though we had locked the doors. I pretended to be asleep, and the men were talking in Italian, but it felt like they were checking on us and wanting to do something. They were quarreling with each other, going back and forth, it seemed. They ultimately left to argue outside. I didn't sleep the whole night. I texted my boyfriend and told him what was happening, and how I felt unsafe. Next morning, the group of girls I'm with decides we are going to stay another day because these men have offered to show us around. I didn't want to get into a car with them because I found them creepy. There were women in their group, but it didn't matter. They seemed even more suspicious to me, being overly friendly. The whole morning I found the men staring at me a lot and also making some comments about my ethnicity. I am Korean, and they could tell, and it seemed that they were interested in me because of my ethnicity, asking me strange questions, including if I'm a virgin or not. So in my head, I could only think of perverted reasons for these questions because I thought these guys were sketchy and sizing us all up for some reason I couldn't figure out yet. My friends said I was having a language barrier issue, and I probably misunderstood. They were liking the attention of these affluent-seeming guys who were going to get us on a yacht. My suspicions and concerns went unheard. I talked to my boyfriend in France, and he said he could come get me, and he did. Aita, for leaving the trip because I felt uncomfortable and unsafe. I tried to communicate all this to my friend, but she didn't feel the same, so I did what I had to do for myself. The men were saying they will drive us to get our things from the hotel and we can stay with them instead, and the girls were considering it. I left 4 days prematurely. The girls eventually came back and told me how creepy and scary the men became, and that I was right. The friend, however, 32F, whose bachelorette it was, is mad at me for leaving. Edit. Just want to add my boyfriend offered to drive them to our booked hotel, and I urged them to follow the planned itinerary. We even found a legit company who did yacht services, and my boyfriend offered to gift my friend by paying, but she and the others wanted to go with that group of men. Update. I-24F did not expect such an overwhelming response on that post. I wrote it in part to vent, because I felt some members of the bridal party are unfairly upset with me. I am no longer part of the group chat, and I was supposed to be singing a song for the couple at this wedding, which I am sure won't be happening either. That's okay. At this point, I do not want to attend. Seems like a sign that I should no longer be friends with the bride 32F and another friend from this group, and maybe even the rest of them. It still hurts, though. I guess that's normal. I also want to express, this can happen anywhere in the world. I do not mean to claim Italy is unsafe, rather that situations can be unsafe anywhere, especially when people get caught up and choose to stop being aware of their surroundings. When I was living at a model house, I witnessed a lot of manipulation, and part of my vigilance is due to the experience I had. To have it fall on deaf ears was extremely disheartening. But I learned from this experience now too. On my post, I also received several comments requesting more information, so I will answer it here as part of the update. If I missed your question, I'm really sorry. 1. Did I tell the girls the men had entered our room at night? Yes. I tried to wake up the girl next to me to alert her after the two men went outside to argue. She was still too inebriated. All the girls were wasted, and although I felt sober and lucid, I also had some alcohol. So I texted the group chat and said we need to urgently talk when everyone is up. I didn't sleep all night. I stayed in this hyper-alert state. When the girls woke, I explained what happened in the night along with my concerns. A few girls seemed to consider this, but the bride-to-be and another girl began to persuade everyone I was simply overreacting. They asserted that because nothing happened, it was my personal paranoia at best. They tried to explain away the incident of the men entering the room to be that perhaps one of them was unhappy to give the room to us. They said everyone was drunk and tired, and as such, people become cranky. This conversation got cut short when a woman from the Italian group entered the room. We had no alone time after this, so I continued to persist in the group chat. The only thing I kept from the girls in my group was that my boyfriend was currently on his way. It's a few hours' drive. I chose to keep this a secret because I did not want the girls to mention it to the Italian group. I felt it would cause a problem in the worst-case scenario. 2. Is the bride-to-be a cheater? I don't feel comfortable writing about her in detail, but she did not have sex with the men to my knowledge, and I don't think that was her intention at all. But I do feel that she and a few other girls did want to take advantage of this trip to have some kind of spontaneous adventure. They wanted a story to tell, and to have some kind of wild experience which 100% involved flirting with men for the thrill of it. This mentality quickly made following the planned itinerary boring, and this new situation that presented itself more exciting. All the other girls in the group are single, except myself, one other girl, and the bride. So I think that contributed. The bride-to-be and her best friend, who kept disagreeing with me alongside her, loved to party. Her fiancé is the same. They are constantly partying together, going to raves and concerts and festivals all over the world. It was also for this reason they kept trying to overrule me. They deemed themselves more experienced travelers. Even before this trip, I have always been labeled the baby of the group. Despite this label, I am not clueless. It also takes more to impress me, so I don't give a reaction easily or get swept up by charitable gestures. These gestures really made the girls become careless. I am spirited and friendly to people I know, but naturally skeptical of strangers. I don't have a loud voice, but I am vocal and will speak my mind, whereas some of the other girls are more quiet followers who say things that they know will be in alignment with the group. The bride and her best friend were louder and very wrong, but their loudness and the conviction with which they projected their opinion bulldozed me, especially when no one else would take my side. There was a major "that only happens in movies, this would never happen to us" type mentality going on that didn't work in my favor. This mixed with the high of alcohol, drugs, and the runaway train that was the mentality of the girls on this trip. It got really hard to talk sense into any of them. My boyfriend met me at a store when I left with a girl from the Italian group on a supply run. It felt like a red flag to me that they always wanted to accompany us. My boyfriend arrived and I told the Italian woman I am going home. My boyfriend had me call the bride-to-be. He said he will take them all back to the hotel. He even offered to help arrange a boat if that's what was keeping her here. She told him he is controlling and she feels bad for me. She refused everything he graciously offered and asked for me to be put on the phone. Then she yelled at me for having done this behind her back, and for spoiling the mood of the trip, the memory for her. The conversation was going nowhere. She told me to essentially fuck off. I was fed up at this point and feeling unwell from lack of sleep. My boyfriend went back on the phone with the bride and made her put him on speaker and then told them all to share their location with my phone. The bride refused, but everyone else did it. The girls went later with the women from the Italian group back to the hotel to get their things and relocate to the villa. 3. After the trip, most of the girls informed me I was right, excluding bride-to-be and one other girl. This is what happened. The men started to get more sexual on the boat in the evening, but not before trying to get everyone extremely intoxicated. It wasn't a kidnapping scheme, I think. It seems they just wanted to get sex in return for all the free favors they had provided and became more aggressive and demanding about it. No one was sexually assaulted to my knowledge, but it seems like the men were quite persistent, so the line is blurry. Also, I learned one of the girls did have sex with one of the guys, the bride-to-be's best friend, who was the girl that kept siding with her. She had sex with one of the men the first night, and that's probably why she was so adamant to stay. They continued their fling, but the other girls became sour to the experience and asked to leave. By the end of the night, they had to check back into a different hotel. What a mess. The bride-to-be is angry that I abandoned the group, and that I left too suddenly without thinking about it. She says I have shown I am not a person who sticks with her through thick and thin. In my defense, I tried my best to express my feelings, but they went on unheard, so the only choice I had was to leave because, in all honesty, I refused to risk my own safety. I also did not want to get into too much detail for sake of length, but the men made me uncomfortable for several reasons, and I think I have the right to not be subjected to unwanted attention. Despite all my calm attempts to reason, the bride-to-be doesn't understand my side. She believes I overreacted for nothing. I'm not sure if the other girls are trying to persuade her to understand me or if they're all in agreement with her. I think I'm just done defending myself. I refuse to beg for this friendship. I kind of want to just move on quietly. What transpired speaks volumes by itself, no? For background, I have known the bride-to-be for years, and the time span is the main reason we stay friends. We don't see each other all the time, though, and can go months and months without interaction. I have many other friend groups, but the history we share keeps us together. Over the years, she doesn't seem to have grown at all, so maybe it's time to go separate ways. Relevant comment. Commenter, NTA. Chills. That could have gone so differently. Did they not see the last season of White Lotus? Thank goodness you got yourself out of there and agree that boyfriend is a rock star and gets full marks. Ditch these vermin pretending to be your friends. Ooh-up. Ironically, I've also not watched any of White Lotus, but I see it mentioned here on my post a few times. I think I need to watch it myself. I only chose to come on the trip with these girls after reviewing the itinerary because I knew what kind of travelers they are. I guess getting engaged to be married didn't change anything. In hindsight, I may be a little naive for thinking it would. Thank you so much for reading my post. I hope it helps someone like me in the future, or makes girls aware that you can never be too cautious. I'm grateful, and extremely lucky by happenstance, that my boyfriend was around as he was also going to attend this wedding. It's much more difficult when you have a long flight to take to get to your person. Additional info from Oop. I was just saying to another user in a comment that, looking back on it, I think it was naive of me to expect this group to not do something like this, given their past travel history. I made an assumption based on the itinerary and the fact that she was getting married, that this trip would be a different vibe. It wasn't, and I'm just lucky my BF was also going to be attending this wedding, so he was nearby to come get me. And you are so right. It should have never been about voting on whether my feelings, discomfort, and concerns mattered. They should have been taken into consideration. There was a lot of evidence to, at the very least, paint the picture that these men were making aggressive, unwanted advances which could escalate, and that we shouldn't entertain their type of company. The fiancé is also my friend, and he did ask for my side of the events after she told him hers. He did not see anything wrong with my decision, and felt it was a bad idea what they decided to do. But he is somewhat like her in that he's very much a carefree partier. Also, the girls and the bride all shared their side of the story first, so I think it influenced the narrative a lot. He has told me he has spoken to the bride about what happened. Then she reached out and asked me to attend the wedding, but there was no apology. She didn't address anything or discuss it. Felt very much like she was deciding to let me back in. And so I decided her re-inviting me to her wedding wasn't enough. I told her I am not coming. I was supposed to sing at her wedding, but I'm no professional. It was more of a little gesture for the bride and groom as my friends, not something that would be missed if it didn't happen. I don't think my absence will be felt much in the sense of the program, so I don't feel bad about not going to the wedding. I don't think my conscience would allow me to even sing for her without feeling like a clown after everything that went down. She's been indirectly posting passive-aggressively, meme quote reels and stuff about friendships and loyalty, that I know is a dig at me on her stories. The friendship is over, and the way she is acting only makes it easier to be okay with that. She always has to prove she's right or explain her way out of something when she's wrong. She'll never acknowledge anything other than her perspective. I somehow got through all these years of our friendship never having ruffled her feathers, but this one time we weren't on the same page for valid reasons. It really showed me how ignorant and self-centered she is. OMG, sorry for the novel. Okay, next story. I just found my husband has $45K in secret credit card debt. Last week I went to the grocery store to buy some stuff for dinner and my card was rejected. It was like $4.50, so I had no idea why it would be declined. I checked the balance and it was overdrafted by like $800. I asked my husband what the heck and he said, oh, something must have cleared early. I transferred $2K from our emergency savings and went about my day. But then it really started gnawing at me. We make more than enough to be able to cover all our payments. There should be no reason why we should be in the negative. So I started to go through all the transactions and noticed a bunch of payments to different credit card companies. At the very bottom of the statement, it had a snapshot of his credit report, and there was all these open accounts. They totaled about $45,000. I was fucking livid at that point and confronted my husband with the statement and demanded to know what the fuck was going on. What was he hiding from me? He swore it was nothing bad, just a lot of overspending. I told him I didn't believe him and needed access to all his stuff. All of it. Accounts, phone, tablet. When I went through all the credit card statements, it was a bunch of mundane shit. Restaurants, gifts, trips. But there's 2 loans for $10K that are just gone. Like he removed the cash and I don't know where it went. At this point, he's been lying to me for so long that I don't trust him for shit. I told him I was done. There's not coming back from this bullshit. I went to talk to a lawyer and kind of explained what was going on. I wanted to see how screwed I was. He said that he would have to itemize every purchase to decide what was for us versus him. Otherwise, I'm on the hook for half of it. As for the houses, we would either have to sell them and split whatever debt, profit, or one buy out the other. I don't know what to do. I've been thinking about it for days. I haven't told anyone. I know my mom would definitely not be supportive. She would find a way to blame me. You should have helped him more. Men aren't good with money. I can almost hear it. The kids know something is up since my husband has been sleeping on the couch all week. He keeps trying to explain, but I just don't believe a word he says. I just want to throw a toaster at his head. I want to calm down and make a rational decision, but that takes time and patience. I'm not good at either. Sigh. I need a drink. When I would hear women say men are shit, I would think, no, I have a good guy. I feel so stupid for being so trusting. I don't pay attention for 5 minutes and he screws me over. I look at my son and think, is he gonna screw some poor girl over too? How do I stop it? Relevant comments. Commenter. My husband did this to me. He stopped paying the mortgage for 1 year and he owed the IRS over $60,000 because he didn't pay. He took care of the finances and I trusted I had married an adult that wouldn't do that or would communicate with me if there was a problem. I was wrong. What I learned is that whatever the reason, 3 years later and thousands in lawyers, I still don't know where that money went. He chose to lie. He knew we were going to end up homeless and he kept doing it until I found out. He now wants me to pay for half of that debt. A man that lies of things like that is not only being abusive, he already doesn't care about you and he is already causing you damage. He won't care about causing more and probably will do it just to not face consequences. Document everything, get a lawyer, leave now and sue for fraud against the marriage estate. This won't get better. Ooh, P, I feel so guilty and dumb for trusting him fully. I'm a nurse and during COVID I was working crazy hours and was burned out and exhausted all the time. I let him take over all the finances thinking I too had married an adult, and if something was wrong, he would tell me. I admit I got comfortable. Now that things have slowed down and I'm back to working locally and only 36 hours, I started paying more attention. I find this. Thank you. I think I really needed to hear this. Commenter. It probably went to hookers or gambling. Maybe drugs. Oop. JFC, now I have to make an appointment with my gyno. I didn't even think about that. I want to ball into my hands. Commenter. It probably isn't hookers. But get those tests, because you would know if he was taking trips. Does he go on business trips? Who is getting the gifts? If he isn't taking you and not giving you the gifts, someone else probably is. I'm so sorry you are going through this, but now you need to figure out what's what. Oh, oop. I can verify most of it. There's some stuff I don't recognize, like concert tickets we never went to. When I asked him, he said he bought them to resell them and make a profit. He has an innocent answer to everything. When I ask him to show me who he sold them to, he says they paid him cash. It's just lies after lies after lies, but just plausible enough to make me look crazy. Update. 1. He has agreed to sign a post-nup. It will be more legally agreeable for me at this point. 2. He has agreed to take responsibility for the entire amount of debt. I don't really care what it was on. It's not just about the money, it's the constant lying. He still can't be totally clear with where it all went. 3. We went to our first marriage counseling session last week. I went okay, I guess. I really don't see how you unring this bell. Right now, all I want to do is leave, but that's not a legally smart thing to do. I quickly found out how easy it is to look like the crazy one when the other person is really good at lying. It's really hard to keep calm when all you want to do is explode. 4. I'm going to get my ducks in a row and then file for divorce. My 2 oldest kids will be in college next year, and our youngest is 16. I still think I'll look like the bad guy. 5. I'm doing okay. I keep cycling through feeling angry, sad, stupid, and heartbroken. 20 years of marriage, dead. Relevant comments. Commenter. Your point #3 about making you look like the crazy one. He's a sociopath or something. Also, the fact that he can't tell you what he spent the money on, very telling. I mean, it can't be anything acceptable. It's got to be a vice. Maybe even lying is the vice he's getting off on. Oop. I'll tell you about it. I was looking for my car title in the safe, where we keep important paperwork. I emptied that thing out, couldn't find it. I asked him about it, and the next day it magically appeared. He said I probably didn't look hard enough. I admit I lost it. Why are you still lying? Why are you still doing this bullshit dance? Guess who looked crazy screaming at her innocent-looking husband? So now all our paperwork is in a safe deposit box. Commenter. What were the loans for? Ooh-pee. They were deposited into our checking account and then taken out as cash. When asked for clarification, he swears we spent that cash on vacations, as spending money. Sure, we would carry around cash for tips or street vendors, but most of our vacation spendings are documented on our bank statements. So once again, not lying, but also not telling the whole truth. OP. When asked if info is missing or if she is throwing everything away. Me? I destroyed the love and trust I gave my husband for 20 years? That's some wild take there, buddy. But out of curiosity, what do you think I left out? I'm on here anonymously, so ask away. Maybe this will serve someone else. 1. He was lying by omission. 2. He still can't fully explain all the charges, gives vague explanations. 3. Yes, obviously. 4. No one is taking the children. 2 are adults and 1 is 16, capable of deciding. I agree. None of this is normal. I have been listening and still only L getting half-truths. If he's sick, he's still not sharing what exactly is his ailment. He had many chances to be honest with me. No, he ruined this. I listened and waited for a logical explanation and got more lies and half-truths. How do you like these stories? Write your opinion in the comments. Let's get 1,000 subscribers on this channel. Love you.